Hey guys, it's Lori with A Voice in the Dark here on YouTube, spiritscrossing.net uh, website. I have had, like everybody else, a very unusual few years. And something that keeps coming up, a little history. I was a single mom, raised my kids on my own, no help. Um, I managed to, keep a home and, the necessities and, the things that they were interested in, make sure they had a well-rounded life and all that, with different things and, music and theater and dancing and all that, softball. But I constantly get accused of making it look easy. How do you do this? You make it look so easy. Wow. It ain't easy. But I'm glad I make it look good. So I thought I better talk about it. It seems that no matter how much you talk to people and tell them the truth, they don't see it that way. What they see is how you live and how you express it and how you manage it. And I guess I just make it look really good and easy. And in some ways, I guess it is. But it all started when I was a little girl. And there was a lot of trauma in my household, a lot of fighting, bickering, and all that. My father drank a lot. And so that tends to put children they find their own safety zones and their own worlds. It does tend to open up spiritual gifts if the trauma is too much. And anyway, so my best friend was my dog and God. And as I got older, I would church hop and stuff and looking for God, because I talked to God a lot, but, And there came a time when I was 15, I believe, and I was sitting in the yard and I was talking to God, and I was feeling guilty because I was reading a dirty book, and, feeling guilty. And I'm asking God, how can we go through and experience everything that this world has to offer? Every emotion, everything. And make this big choice of good and evil. And, you or them, And I said, and I know I'm not supposed to do this because they tell you in every church you go to, don't question God. Well, I'm going to, because I don't believe their shit. No offense, but I don't believe you're even in any of those buildings that I've been to. So I'm going to ask you to prove that you're listening to me. And I came up with a couple things. Would you move that? It was a flower basket in a tree. I was sitting outside the house. We lived on a lake, so I was sitting on the side of the house, where I could see the lake, see the trees. And my mom kept some flower thing in this one tree. And I waited a couple minutes, and my dad comes out from watching the football game and doesn't really say anything. He just kind of walks up to the tree and he kind of moves this plant. Well, it wasn't unusual for my dad to move shit around, so I wasn't thinking too much at the moment. And I thought, oh, okay. He goes, I'm watching the football game. Okay. And I waited till he had time to get back in the house, go watch the football game. It was on the other far corner of the house, so. And then I looked at God and I went, okay, well, that's a start. Could you move that trash can up there? Because it sits there all the time and never gets moved. It was right by my dog's grave. And a few minutes later, it goes my dad, and he goes and moves that trash can. And he scratches his head as he's moving it, and he turns back around and puts it right back where it was supposed to be, because that's where he put it. He wants it to stay there. And I went, Okay, you're listening, all right. And so I apologize for questioning God. I said, but I had to. I needed to know you're really listening because this is really important to me. And so I asked again, how am I supposed to learn all this in one lifetime? And where do I go from here? And yeah, I'm feeling guilty, so I'm really hammering it home today. And my dad brings out these 3 books. He goes, it's halftime. He goes, and I've had these books forever. He goes, I went to the bookstore about a month ago, and all 3 of them fell out on the bookshelf onto the floor. He goes, and I looked at them, and he goes, and they weren't for me. He goes, but I bought them because I know that when they fall out on the shelf onto the floor in front of me, they're meant for someone. He goes, I'm assuming they're meant for you because something moved me to bring them to you. I said, okay. I said, you can go now. I'm having this important conversation with God. I don't want anybody to interrupt. And I'm looking at the books, and the books are Many Lifetimes. They Are Among Us, Aliens and Angels. And Florence Scovel-Shinn, I think, your word is your wand. I believe those were the 3. Now, I was like, many lifetimes. That would make sense. Many lifetimes. And so I was cool. I had those books. I said, thanks. I'll read all 3 of them, which I did. And it wasn't maybe 6 months later because I was going to this new church. And it was one of those born-again Christian churches. And it was a nice small congregation. I liked the building and stuff, so. And I was going there. And 3 weekends in a row, I went up to the altar to give myself to God. Because other people were doing it, and they were having these miraculous wow, and falling over, and, passing out and stuff. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. The 3rd time I went up, when I was kneeling down at the altar and I was praying to God, the minister knelt down and he whispered in my ear. He said, Lori, you go home and do this between you and God. This is not your circus. It's not meant for you here. This is between you and God. I said, okay. Because I kept wondering, what the hell's wrong with me? How come I'm not getting hit? How come I'm not going out? Well, later on I find out that it's a hypnotist technique that they're using, and it automatically makes people pass out and think that they've had some effect. And I'm immune to it. So anyway, I was in my parents' dining room. I had spent all morning making a really nice specialty cake for them. They were all out for the day. And the table looked nice, the cake looked nice, and I sat down and I prayed. And I gave myself to God. I surrendered to God. I said, please, I want to give myself to you. And I want my life to be meaningful, fulfillment. And I meant it from my heart. And the Holy Spirit took a hold of me and rose me up into this. Now I'm sure it's my consciousness, okay? Don't get goofy on me. But you feel this white light envelop you, and you're taken up. You feel like you're being taken up, and you are in unconditional love. And the vibration is amazing. And I don't know how long it lasted. I just know that when it was done, I felt brand new. I felt different. And I felt like God heard me, and he took me under his wing. And that, being touched by the Holy Spirit, was a big turning point in my life. Now I was 15, and I liked experimenting, and I loved boys. Oh my God, they were so cute, and I loved that one and that one and that one, And uh, I was like a butterfly in a wildflower field. So anyway, I'd heard of Catherine Kuhlman, and I had read about her, and so I heard she was coming over to the stadium that winter, and I wanted my friends to take me, but nobody wanted to take me to see a faith healer. And go figure, at 15, you'd think somebody would, but no. So my dad had to take me, and he had been crippled from a train wreck. He was a train engineer, and they'd had a bad wreck, and he was crippled as far as he could not bend over and put his own pants and shoes on or anything. And they said it would be permanent. And we had just bought a 16,000 square foot building, and we were putting a restaurant in, and it was a lot of stress. But anyway, we went and saw this faith healer, and when she walked out, we were way up at the highest of the auditorium, and when she walked out on the stage, she would open her arms, and she'd say, "This isn't me, it is the Holy Spirit. I am just the vessel." And you saw that white light that I'd seen before, and it was emanating from her and through her and out into the auditorium until it filled the whole auditorium. And I felt that energy again. And I was like, oh my God. And she said, anyone with a back problem, stand up and be healed. That's, because God would give her directions. And my dad wouldn't stand up. And I said, stand up. He wants everybody that's got back pain to stand up. And he wouldn't do it. And I said, oh, he was trying to give all his energy to the little lady on the gurney down on the floor. I said, God will take care of her, Dad. Don't worry. Get up. So he did. He finally stood up. And she said, now sit down and know you have been healed. And he was. He was healed. He went the next day and did 150 sit-ups and push-ups with his doctors, and they couldn't believe it. They said, this is a miracle, Doug. It shouldn't be. He said, it's funny you said that, because my daughter took me to a faith healer last night, and she healed me. Or God did. He called it her, but it's really the Holy Spirit. So these were some of the most pivoting points of my spiritual quest and experiences. My mom had told me a lot about Jesus, and I had learned some things at Sunday school. But there were things that I knew that I didn't know how I knew. Like Jesus saying, you can do everything that I do and more. There's more. Because as a kid, you're thinking, wow, he did this, and this, and this, and there's more. Oh my God, I got to know what the more is. So I have to know and understand how to do this. Well, that started a whole new fiasco with ministers and priests and stuff, because I kept asking them. I said, how do I do these things? Jesus said this, and I want to know how I do this so I can get to the more. I want to know what the more is. And he said, when I talk to God, I sit in prayer. When I pray, I'm talking to God. But when I listen to God, I sit in quiet meditation. Now, no Christian minister could tell me how to meditate at that time. I don't know what they're like now, because I quit going to church a long time ago. But they couldn't tell me. I had ministers rubbing their heads and, toweling their face and taking their glasses off. Lori, I can't answer your questions. I don't know. I said, well, how can you teach this and preach it and not know? But they didn't. So anyway, several years later, I did finally learn how to meditate, and then the ball really started rolling. I'm not going to go into all that tonight, but that's the starting point of my new series that I'll give weekly. Is you have to understand where I came from and how I got to here and how I made it look easy. It isn't me that made it look easy. It was God. It was Source. It was the universe. Jesus said, the man wants more taxes, pay him. So what? Who cares? You can do this. Turn water to wine. So I turned lemons to lemonade, however you want to call it. But one secret is when they tell you to ask for something, ask for it. But leave it up to the angels in the universe on how they're going to get it to you. And I sometimes just say, could you find this for me? And I'll be exact what it is at a price I can afford, please. And then I'll find it. I'll be guided to it. And so that's the start of how I make it look easy. Have a good night. This is Lori. And remember, if you're having problems with anything, get some professional help. And maybe it's time to start on that personal relationship with God, because it really is a personal relationship. It's not a building relationship or a group relationship in any way, shape, or form. It's a personal experience. And maybe you're ready for that step now. Anyway, have a good night. Love you. Bye.